Hi, in this video tutorial, I'm going to show off how to use VDMX's echo mode to keep a TouchOSC project in sync with your sliders and buttons and other interface items. So to begin with, I'm going to create a control surface plugin to demonstrate what we can do. The control surface lets you add arbitrary interface controls like a slider or a button and a bunch of other things. And when you click on one of them, it shows up in the UI inspector window, all of its settings. And what I'm going to show off will work with anything else. So if you've got the opacity on a layer or the controls for some effects, all of that will work with what I'm about to show off. But it's easiest to demonstrate using a control surface. So if I have this slider in VDMX and I've got this slider in TouchOSC, if I want to connect them, all I've got to do in VDMX is click the detect button and move my TouchOSC slider. And as I move my finger now, it's controlling the value in my control surface slider. And if I want to have it so that changing the value in VDMX changes the value in TouchOSC, I can click on the Enable Echo on All Receivers button. And now if I change VDMX's slider, it changes it automatically on my iPad as well. And still the same if I change it in TouchOSC. And I can set this up as well for a button. So if I have this toggle button here in VDMX, I can click Detect, and now it starts following. And what I want to do here is use val from input so that it uses the actual value from TouchOSC instead of toggling whenever the value comes in, which you might want to do if you have a momentary button off of, say, a MIDI controller, or if you're using one of these other momentary buttons. But in this case, we want to use val from input because we're actually syncing with a toggle button. And once again, if I enable echo on all of the receivers for this button, I can change it in VDMX and it changes in TouchOSC. And likewise, I can change it in TouchOSC and it changes it in VDMX. And I can still do this with my slider. Another thing that's kind of cool is if I have another controller, say TouchOSC running on my iPhone, I can click on this slider here and I can add a second receiver, click on Detect, and now all three of these values are in sync. I'm going to have to click Enable Echo again. But now if I adjust my value in VDMX, it changes in both places. And if I change it in one version of TouchOSC, all of the values change together. So this lets you do sort of collaborative performances, and I can set this up with anything else as well. So the next thing I'm just going to show off quickly is, I'll move this iPhone. The pop-up button interface also works with this. So if you have a pop-up button and you've got 3 items in it, say untitled, you can do the MIDI detect for this. So I'm going to switch into continuous detect mode, hit detect, and I'm going to use these 3 buttons here, enable echo, and now as I tap these buttons in TouchOSC and they change the pop-up button in VDMX, they light up to show the state. And likewise, if I change the pop-up button in VDMX, it updates the values in TouchOSC. The next thing I'm going to show off is in the next panel. With TouchOSC, you've got these multi-slider controls, and you've got sort of these multi-toggle controls as well. And for this, I'm just going to create a new control surface because it's kind of nice to be able to have pages on different control surfaces, just so you can see them separately. But you can also do it in one single panel if you'd like. So I'm going to add in a multi-slider and click on this. And you can see in the UI inspector here I can adjust the number of sliders that I have, both the number of columns and rows. So in this case I've got 16 columns across and just 1 row vertically. And you can see that the multi-slider is kind of squished here. So if I click on the inspect item, I can click Customize UI Layout, and then I can hit the Edit button. And I'm just going to resize this so that these aren't so squished. Click the Minimize button, disable Edit mode, and now I've got these multi-sliders here. And I can click on each one of these and assign them with their own interface controls. But if I click on the label for the multi-slider, I'll get the editor for the entire window. So I can, once again, just do a detect. So I'm just going to do each one of these, go across, and now disable detect. And each one of these is synced up. And of course I can just enable echo on all of my receivers, and now if I change a value in VDMX, it updates right there in TouchOSC. And since I can adjust each one of these sliders individually, I can just right-click on one of them and say if I want to have this one in particular running off of my measure position in VDMX, I can try and fight it in TouchOSC, but it's going to keep updating. Likewise, I can try fighting in VDMX. Another thing that we've added that's pretty useful is if you're working with doing a lot of TouchOSC layouts, say you've got this one, oops, here we go, the TouchOSC editor for the Beat machine, the one that we're looking at right now. It's got all these pages. It would kind of take a long time to set all of them up. So in the inspector for this, under Import TouchOSC Layout, you can just find the one that you have in the Finder, click Import, and then here you'll get to pick which page you want to import. So in this case, we're just going to want to do 2, which has this multi-toggle. And there's an option to create receivers for all of the UI items. We want to do that. There's an option to ignore all of the receivers if, let's say, the control surface is hidden by tabbed windows. For now, I'm going to leave that off, but you can try that. And there's also the echo option, and when that's enabled, you can pick which device you want to go to. So in this case, I want to have it automatically use that one, my iPad. And I'll click Import, and you'll see that it created this, but it's close, but it's not exactly right. If I click on these, it works, but what I want to do now is just inspect it again, edit UI, and we've added an option to rotate there. So now we have our interface from TouchOSC with our multi-toggle, and we also have our multi-slider in here. And if I want to assign these to some controls, if I say I open up my source controls and load maybe a, how about a constant color just in here, just as a quick example. So I've got just the red value, and if I want to assign, say, this first multi-slider to something, I can just control drag from here to red, and from here to green, and from here to blue, and it automatically creates the receivers from the correct address from here. And now if I adjust these 3 first sliders, it adjusts all of those control surface values there, so you can quickly assign things from your control surfaces that are automatically generated to whatever parameters you want within VDMX. So likewise, I can just grab this last one and control drag from there to my layer opacity, and now this last slider is adjusting that. So you can do quite a bit with this, and as I showed off before, you can also just very quickly make everything work across multiple controls, which makes it really useful for collaborative effort, and this is all just one click away. When you import it, it just automatically creates all of your receivers here and enables echo, and you saw it only took a few seconds to set all of that up. So I'm going to stop talking now and let you get to playing with it. Have fun.